Alright, so I'm going to give you a quick tour of how RStudio is laid out. So on this left hand side, this window over here, you see the tab called Console and Terminal. Console is where you can put all the code. So print hello. And the results will show up there. So on the top right side, you'll see a section called Environment, History, and Connections. History is where all the pretty much all the history of your code is going to show up. So in the long run, if you're typing a bunch of stuff in console, you can recall over here and see. And if you want, you can select the code from before and click on to console, and it'll put it back into console. Environment is where you see the data you currently are working on, that you've loaded into the memory. At first, this section is empty because you haven't loaded any data in it yet. There's also, let's see, a section on the bottom right where initially you'll see your file structure, and that is pretty much how your file structure is laid out on your computer. So if you go into desktop, you'll see desktop files. So this is kind of just a way to view it. You can't really interact with your Explorer and the Explorer on RStudio the way you do normally. Like, you can't just drag files into these folders over here from your Finder or Explorer. That just will not operate that way. But you can still do things like rename files, even move it, copy it. So that's just good to know. Plots, that's where when you're creating visualizations and you output it, this is where it will show up. There's an option to export it. If you export it as you can export it as an SVG, a PDF, a PNG, or you can copy it to clipboard and take it somewhere else. Let's see, there's another tab called Packages, and these are all the packages you've installed. At the moment, there's not many. This is just the default list of packages. Later on, we'll be installing way more, and you can either install it from the CRAN overall network, or you can download it from people's individual GitHub repos. Help is pretty self-explanatory. This is where when you type in help commands for functions or packages, it will show up here. So, for example, I'm going to type in question mark, and that's how to bring up the help file associated with the function. Is you just precede the function name with a question mark. So the function printed out hello, but just in case, I'm going to do a question mark print, and then you see over in the help tab, it gives you what it does, and it gives you examples of what the arguments are that the function needs. So I've typed in X was hello that I typed in before, but there were a lot of other options. I could put in quotes, false, I could put in wit, I could do a lot of things. So at the bottom you see examples, so I can type in, so I'll just copy all this from the example, copy and paste it into console, press enter. Okay. And you see this is the example that is put out in their their help file. So it said, I guess it was cleaning up some of these tables because there were a bunch of zeros, and it said I want to replace these zeros with periods just because it'll look nicer in the format. So this is how they would do it, and it's all there in the example. So now you can kind of deconstruct the process and be like, okay, if I want to do something similar, then I just can change this a bit, copy paste, and instead of replace the zeros with commas, maybe I want to replace it with dashes, and that's how you would do it. So this is all in the console though, and you can see in the history that's showed up there. But the thing about R is creating scripts for reproducibility. So to do that, you can just click on this little plus button up on the top left, or click on File, New File, and click on RScript. There are several ways you can do it. And this is where I can take my code And now I have it saved forever and ever. Save that. Gotta close off the parentheses. Okay, so now that is a script. And to run that, I have to just put the cursor. I can either select it and click run, and there it shows up automatically down there in the console. Or I can just put my cursor in the line and click run. Same thing. So that's it. You see the script section of it all shows up down, pushes the window down a little bit on the console. So now there's room up here. You can kind of adjust by clicking and dragging where you need to. Let's see, I'm going to save this as just a printer, which was print hello. Click run. And now that's something I've saved into the environment. So printer is hello. So when I type in printer, then it runs print hello. So this is the signifier, and which we'll get into next. But this is this is just a tour of RStudio. What else? You can open up files, recent files, open up projects. We'll also get into that next. Okay, well, this is just the environment. You want to save scripts. You've got all these different things. You can, I guess there's other ways you can import data sets this way, from Excel, SAS, text. But because we're going to try to preserve that whole sentiment of reproducibility, we need to script that process. And so if you click on the buttons like you would on Excel to open up a data set and bring it in R, you're skipping that step of describing where you're getting the data from. So you're going to have to redo that process every time importing in data. And that's the whole point, is you don't want to go through those clicks. If you can script it out, import the data in via a script, it'll save you way more time in the long run. So I'm not going to show you that. All right, I'll see you in the next section.